I think Steve Jobs famously said that you can't connect the dots looking forward. I can only connect the dots looking backward. Once you ship a piece of silicon, you can't go out to the customer and then change it, right? So one of our applications that's in use today is with over 2 million users, large telcos. Their growth has flatlined. It's still just more of managing their customers, managing churn and attrition. Think about like two things that any consumer wants: finance and connectivity. It could be Taylor Swift mobile, it could be MrBeast mobile. MrBeast is pretty big because he has 500 million followers. You don't open an AT&T app, you don't open a T-Mobile app and use it as much, but you would want to go to your Instagram or your TikTok or your favorite band's app, whether you want to call it AI in general or AI code generation. The most overhyped aspect is expecting AI code generation to do everything that a developer does.
Welcome to the show. Today, we are talking with Vikram Srivats, Chief Commercial Officer at WaveMaker, a company that has been quietly revolutionizing how enterprises build applications with their AI-powered low-code platform. WaveMaker isn't just another development tool. They are one of the only 10 companies globally recognized by leading analysts as top-tier application development platforms. With more than 200 enterprise customers across 17 countries, including major banks and ISVs, they have cracked the code on generating real, production-ready applications from designs. But what makes today's conversation particularly timely is their recent launch of Test Drive with AT&T, a white label mobile app that is opening up entirely new opportunities for MVNOs, consumer brands, and even influencers to enter the wireless space. So, if you are someone who wants to hear from tech leaders who are actually building the future of enterprise software and mobile connectivity, hit subscribe now. We bring you conversations with executives who share real strategies behind transformative technologies. Vikram, it is great to have you on the show. You have got quite an interesting background. Over 20 years in tech, worked with everything from India's first indigenous handheld computer to becoming the number one independent licensor of Bluetooth Smart IP globally. How did that journey lead you to WaveMaker and the world of AI powered code generation? What was it about this space that convinced you to dive deep into low code platforms?
Yeah, well, Ravina, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Um, it's as one looks back, I think Steve Jobs famously said that you can't connect the dots looking forward. I can only connect the dots looking backward. For me, as a mechanical engineer by training, um, I didn't uh, fathom at any point in time to end up doing this variety of things. But I think if I think back, what's one common strain is that sort of having a passion to connect a set of unique people to a set of unique opportunities has been the constant sort of like thread throughout my career. It's been fun, you know, when you actually have the opportunity to shape a business that has a lot of potential, has the ability to create a runway in the market, but you also see a team that's inspirational and unique. You want to be able to take that rough diamond and then make that best kept secret or well kept secret more of a real thing in the market, and that's kind of what's driven me. It's just what drives me even today. This the Wavemaker team is one of those hidden gems. They came out of a setup that was started 25 years ago, where India and software products didn't belong in the same sentence. India was known for IT outsourcing and whatnot. So that's what drives me.
That is beautiful. You have been on both the sides of the tech equation, hardware with Bluetooth licensing, and now enterprise software with WaveMaker. What unique perspective does that hardware background give you when you are, talking to enterprises about digital transformation? You see the patterns that pure software folks might miss?
See, I think I first of all must confess I'm neither a software engineer nor an electrical engineer. not an electronics engineer. So I haven't built hardware myself. I haven't built software. But the one thing that I've done consistently is being at the forefront of taking a product to market, working with customers, seeing how they adopt, um, sort of understanding the pain in that, right? We all are all excited, for example, today about software, hardware, AI platforms, coding, whatnot. But if you think about it on the other side, it's a big challenge. And so I think if I think about your question, in hardware, there's a principle called first time right. In silicon development, there's something called first pass silicon. So I think what stays with me is that customers want to be able to get that first implementation right. I don't know much about the world of software from 20, 25 years ago. I wasn't tenured in software. But one thing that stays with me is like customers like to see uh, implementation succeed. Right? So the ethos of actually delivering hardware, once you ship a piece of silicon, you can't go out to the customer and then change it, right? So in some sense, that stayed with me. The other thing is when you think about hardware and software, the software is extremely optimized, right? In today's world of like, I don't know, even before AI, cloud and whatnot, is like, you have unmetered usage of resources, things like that. Even now, people are thinking LLMs will go make your bills go crazy. The other thing that stayed with me is how do you build optimized software, uh, right? As you would do in a constrained environment like hardware, where you have the hardware itself is the infrastructure. You don't have more compute, more server, more storage, things like that. So that thing has also stayed with me as well as, even though I'm not a builder, it stayed with me.
Now let's dive into what's happening at WaveMaker and this fascinating intersection of AI and application development. The low code space is crowded, but WaveMaker's approach is different. You generate actual Java code that developers can own and modify. Most platforms create black box applications, and why did you choose the harder path of real code generation? And how does your autocode AI actually work when it's converting Figma designs into production ready applications?
Wow. There are two questions in there. I think one is a more broader question, like how do we play in this crowded space and why did we choose real code generation? First of all, I think the term low code or no code, um, if you think about the world of AI code generation today, it's all no code, right? Basically, you don't write code. You prompt and then it writes code. But I think some of those nomenclatures are changing. People tend to use code generation more because it's fancy. So it's AI code generation versus something else. But effectively, we've been in that no code space um, for quite some time. So we understand that, um, when we went to the market, there are a lot of new applications that can be built, and there are a lot of new people to development who can be empowered by platforms. We decided to say, look, when you really look at enterprises and you look at enterprise IT and you look at how they have built applications over the years, that is a worthy problem to solve, because of so many challenges. You have tech debt, you have aging skill sets, you have backlogs that are huge. Everything has to be enterprise grade, enterprise architecture signed off, things like that. One can go and build outside the bubble of IT and build new applications that have lesser rigorous standards, by people who don't have development experience. But I think this was the harder problem to solve. So in some sense, we sort of chose what we wanted to do as a company. As I said, we have a unique team. We also felt there should be a worthy cause for that unique team. So that's what prompted us to go after it. Insofar as the second question, that is how does auto code work? Again, auto code uses some machine learning under the hood to be able to recognize Figma designs and to be able to transcode that into working UI. I think the bigger question there is, more than how it works, is more in terms of like what does it solve. We've seen a tremendous explosion. You and I probably have been using consumer applications on our phone for a long time, right? Enterprises now feel like they want to build those classy UX applications. You don't have any people don't want to be bored and be in the drudgery of working with things that don't look good, because they're used to things that look great on their phones. So we saw that wave coming through enterprises. We saw that wave coming through large software companies. And we felt like if we are going to start with a classy design, a design system that can be propagated across enterprise applications, then we need to be able to address that chasm between design and development and make that frictionless. Because today you have to write a whole lot of CSS code. You have to like figure out what the designer was thinking. The designer is an artist, the developer is an engineer. We figured there's a big chasm that we want to go and solve. So that's kind of what we are addressing there.
So there's this ongoing debate about whether low code is for professional developers or business users. You are clearly focused on the professional developer market. What is your take on this divide? Like when enterprises come to you, are they looking to replace the developers or empower them?
I think it's clearly the latter. Enterprises, like I said earlier, have challenges. They have to have real world, serious, secure, and scalable applications built by people who are trained in web and mobile application development that need to pass through multiple guardrails. And if you put all these constraints, all these things in the optimization equation, it's extremely hard for them to then just say, look, let me just adopt some tool, right? If you go back and look at some of the analyst reports of WaveMaker, the kind of coverage they talk about is, please adopt WaveMaker if your standards are rigid. That's kind of the statement. That's their qualifier about WaveMaker, which is it actually really conveys a lot because WaveMaker can blend into all of your enterprise architecture processes. It doesn't break anything. It's not a silo. So I think clearly, if you think about it, uh, we were after, like I said earlier, the tougher problem. We want to solve it for professional developers, and more broadly, uh, we are a code generation platform that whether it's low code, no code, I think those terms are we can discuss that. But I think broadly speaking, that's what we're helping enterprises do, and definitely not looking to replace developers.
Absolutely. You mentioned like about 2 to 4 times about speed improvements, but enterprise customers are notoriously concerned about code quality and maintainability. How do you convince a CTO that AI generated code will be as good as what their senior developers write? What is your honest assessment of where AI code generation works brilliantly versus where human developers are still essential?
Yeah, I think any answer that I will give you is probably going to sound biased because I am firmly in the camp that AI code generation will not replace developers, right? At least in the context of enterprises. So clearly, it's to empower them. It's to you can say like turbocharge their productivity, become like a jetpack, if you will, for developers. But coming to your question about how do we convince CTOs and CIOs about sort of, hey, code generation is happening, the developer didn't write the code, but it's still as robust and whatnot. I think it all starts for us with like the architecture of that code generation, right? How does that happen today? Is it like you enter a prompt and then it goes and then talks to an LLM, and then the LLM is trained? Is it doing code generation and whatnot? Different people have different architectures for it. I think in our case, we've spent a few years perfecting this. So we were not born yesterday. We've been doing this, solving problems with very large enterprises. In fact, for very large software companies who have built platforms using WaveMaker, even before the AI world, right? And we did generate real code, so Java, Angular, React Native, etc. So the way we did this was actually to develop sort of an intermediate markup that understands what the developer is doing, and then actually have a code generator that's a template-based code generator that is very deterministic. Unlike in AI, which is it's not deterministic, it's probabilistic, and you can actually reduce uh, the variability and increase your probability to very high uh, nines, right? Here it is determinism. So what we are doing today in WaveMaker, when I go and talk to a CIO, is not to tell them that we're doing AI code generation. That we are actually saying that, look, the process of converting a developer's actions from a prompt is using an MCP architecture that actually calls those deterministic code generators. So it's actually a two-step process that weighs in on some of our architecture as well as our pre-baked components. that help us convey that deterministic code generation. So, long story short, WaveMaker delivers predictable, deterministic outcomes, and more importantly, at a deterministic cost. Right today, if you think about it, you can actually spend $500 in a week, even though you're on a $20 per month subscription. Right.
Good.
So, how do you kind of control that cost? So, I think that's the other aspect.
Yeah, I would agree to that. Mobile is a whole different dimension than the web, and you have device specific functionality like camera, fingerprint, barcode, different platforms, say iOS and Android, and the complexity around App Store publishing and the maintenance. Especially for consumer facing applications from telcos, banks, and large enterprises, the bar is extremely high. You are competing with B2C apps on user experience. Do you even think businesses risk much, even choosing to build consumer facing, high stakes, and large scale native mobile apps using a visual code generation studio like yours?
Yeah, I think clearly the question itself conveys a lot, right? I think there is a lot of risk. I frankly have seen customers of ours who have built consumer grade mobile applications using WaveMaker. More importantly, when I talk about mobile applications, they're built like a platform. So what I mean by a platform is, let's say there's a software company that's in banking, or software company that's in telecom, or in supply chain, that is building its software product, uh, and then there's a web, and then there's a mobile uh, experience, and basically then they're offering that to their customers, who will then offer it to their either their employees or users, business users, or the software company is selling it to a bank, and the bank is actually offering it to its consumers, people like you and me, right? So we've seen this question come up. I think clearly there's a lot of things yet to. It's This is not mainstream yet. People are not using mobile app development studios for B2B2C or B2C applications yet. I think in our case, it just kind of goes back to two things. One is talk to you about all the platform architecture and the way we have gone about this for at least about 7 or 8 years right now. The second is when you think about uh, our street credibility. We work with software companies who have built software products using our product. Now, that's a very high bar, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to like people talking about professional developers and enterprise applications and IT, that itself is a high bar relative to citizen developers or business applications, right? Building software products is something else. So in some sense, that credibility carried us along. To be honest with you, nobody questioned that, saying that look, hey, here's a company that's very specifically focused on ISVs and helping them build their products and platforms. The second thing is obviously it came the technological aspect was the other aspect. Sort of think like what do we do with this? So we have a cross-platform framework that works both on iOS and Android. It's highly optimized. It employs a lot of, you could say, like performance characteristics that can help developers build performant applications at scale. For example, one of our applications that's in use today is with over 2 million users, and basically they perform so many journeys per hour, and so many developers are logged in, and so on and so forth. Some of that scale and performance is what is baked into the platform already. So some of those things have actually carried us along, and obviously, we've come a long way since we launched, a couple of years ago on the mobile side. Today, we are actually shipping product with customers both in Asia as well as in the US that is used by multiple millions of users.
That's wonderful. Speaking of those new markets, let's talk about this fascinating move into the MVNO space with Test Drive. Most people don't even know what an MVNO is, but you just launched Test Drive with AT&T for MVNOs, consumer brands, and influencers. Can you please walk us through this market opportunity? Why are consumer brands and influencers suddenly interested in becoming wireless providers? What is driving this trend?
Yeah, clearly, what I've seen is this is becoming a secular trend everywhere. So large telcos, MNOs, telcos for a reason, but basically in the world of virtual versus these are the folks who actually have the infrastructure, MNOs. They really want to be able to expand their reach. They really want to be able to monetize their investments. They really also want to grow, because if you look at MNOs across the board, their annual reports will tell you that their growth has flatlined. It's still just more of managing their customers, managing churn and attrition, and still sort of like musical chairs between the three major MNOs in the US. Uh, but more importantly, I think that, you know, from their standpoint, they want to be able to tap into this wave of how consumers are consuming, and what their affinity to certain brands are. Today, a lot of people I've heard are looking at TikTok uh, to be able to even make enterprise decisions. While that was unfathomable a few years ago, just imagine, like influencers on TikTok and whatnot. But I think that's the world we live in today. Influencers carry a lot of brand power with their followers. There are also brands themselves. You think about Starbucks, it's an app that I use. It's Think about what apps you use on your phone. I think about on the other hand, do you use a Airtel app or a Reliance app as much? Maybe not, right? So I think in some sense, what we're seeing is a confluence of opportunity meeting necessity, where MNOs are sort of allying with influencers. Influencers want to be able to also offer mobile. Think about like two things that any consumer wants: finance and connectivity, right? So for them, it's a means to take their brand to the next level by offering that much more product and affinity and connection and engagement with their followers. And for MNOs, it's a fantastic distribution channel. It's a fantastic wholesale channel for them, sort of amplify sort of their growth as well. So that's kind of what I think is happening. But obviously, there's much more depth to all this.
Yes, there is. I mean, the idea of influencers launching their own mobile networks, it sounds wild, but you are clearly seeing something that others aren't. What is the business model here? Are we talking about Mr. Beast launching the Beast Mobile, or is this a more subtle integration? How does the economics work for such creators?
Yeah, I think test drive itself is a means for any brand, any mobile virtual operator, any influencer to launch a mobile app to be able to allow consumers, potential customers, to try before they buy, right? So that's what it is. We previously this year we announced with AT&T uh, a complete influencer studio that helps them build a mobile application that's not just a try before you buy, but a full scale MVNO um, as a mobile application, right? So mobile first influencers. And so basically, um, we have both of those offerings in the market today. And coming to your question, that influencer app studio is what we call it. That app studio is exactly, um, it could be, Taylor Swift mobile, it could be Mr. Beast mobile, it could be, uh, you know, any influencer that you can imagine. I think Mr. Beast is pretty big because he has 500 million followers, right? So we're talking about like wholesale branded new standalone uh, application which infuses mobile. So you don't open, like I said, you don't open an AT&T app, you don't open a T-Mobile app and use it as much, but you would want to go to your Instagram or your TikTok or your favorite brand's app, right? So this is the whole thinking is not to make it a wireless app. It's to actually make it your brand's app, and then wireless is sort of invisible in that. So in some sense, it's embedded. It's part of the offer, but you can do events, you can do sweepstakes, you can do games. You can participate. You get early content drops. You can earn rewards. You can buy merchandise. So we've actually built out all of that as a composable app studio for influencers to come in and then make it their own.
Got it. Building apps for MVNOs has to be incredibly complex. I mean, the eSIM activation, carrier integration, billing systems. How does your platform make something that complicated accessible to brands that have zero telecom experience? And what is the technical magic happening behind the scenes?
Yeah, all of the things that you talk about are very core to telco, right? So I want to be clear that we are not a telco software company, right? And we don't aim to become one. So we are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We partner with some of the best telco software companies in the market. These are established software companies that handle these kinds of things, eSIM, billing. They actually do a lot of the orchestration under the covers, etc. And they also are well integrated with these MNOs that I talked about, right? The large wireless carriers. So when we partner with them, our integration stands very clearly. Where we play is very clearly only on the application space. Now, the way we make it easy for influencers or MVNOs to start is by doing these kinds of things. One is we actually offer a composable app studio. Just imagine, let's say, LeBron James wants to launch his own wireless app, right? Let's say that he wants to offer his merchandise through that app in addition to offering wireless. So we've actually built out a merchandise store that can be customized for LeBron James. So all his team needs to do is to be able to plug that module in and not to build things from scratch. That's one thing that we do. Second thing that we do is that we fundamentally make it very easy for someone to create a custom branded application very quick, very easy, and very cheap. That's fundamentally based on things like what I said earlier from out of code. You take a design, you take a it really embodies your brand, and then you're able to sort of like convert that super quickly, super easily. We do things like that. Okay? And thirdly, all the things that I said earlier about what makes us stand out in the world of B2B2C applications, the robustness, the performance, the security, the scale, all of that is built in the platform. So when you're building with the platform, it just is baked into the application as well. So I think those three things are what we do that helps us really stand out in the application space.
This intersection of AI development tools and new market categories is truly fascinating. But I want your thoughts on where all this of is heading towards. Like, you have been in tech for 2 decades and seen multiple waves of developer productivity improvements. Where does AI code generation rank in terms of transformative impact? Are we looking at fundamental shift in how software gets built, or is it just the latest incremental improvement?
Oh no, actually, I think that whether you want to call it AI in general or AI code generation, I think a it is a fundamental shift. There is no question about it. Um, the aspect of, for example, when you rewind the clock a little bit and you talk about those world of early low code days, which we have not played in. We are not like a pure play low code platform for business users or citizen developers. But if you think about even that paradigm of like building outside of IT, today you can do that much faster with people who have zero experience, as long as it is a federated model and there are guardrails and there are there's also like a very thoughtful way of implementing all this. You can do that with today's tools. One reflection is kind of the exponential growth you see in some of these code generation platform tool companies revenue. Like people are hitting like $100 million in ARR very quickly or even more. So all of this is, could be individuals, could also be some companies trying this outside of their core. So I think definitely it's transformative. How that plays out, I think all of us can crystal ball and come up with different perspectives. But I think it's definitely transformative, right? I think the aspect of now, how do you employ that systematically, even if it's not wholesale code generation for core, complex, sophisticated, long-lived applications, is a different ballgame. I think that jury is still out. Um, so I can't pontificate about that.
I totally get that. And I would agree to it to a lot of extent, I would say. And WaveMaker has started in traditional enterprise software, but now you are enabling new business models like influencer MVNOs. What other industries or use cases are you targeting next? Like, where do you see the unexpected opportunities for rapid application development?
That's a great question. I think on the surface of it, we have density in two major verticals: financial services, where we cut our teeth back in 2017, 2018. And then you've systematically grown, now powering some of the world's largest software companies, as well as financial institutions, uh, and therefore also now consumers. In the US, like I said, in one example, we have millions of consumers who are using a product that's been built using WaveMaker. So clearly, for us, financial services has been a lot of tenure and density and knowledge, um, and therefore street credibility. Right, people know us in that space. So if I can, it's easy for us to kind of be able to navigate that. Telecom started about 2.5 years ago, approximately, and then there again we have taken a view not to go after the mothership telco, but more importantly, figure out what is the point at which there's this discontinuity for telcos. The discontinuity is, hey, look, there's this mass market, it's not differentiated. There's Vikram, there's somebody else, there's Ravina. Everybody gets the same plan, and so on and so forth. But we want to go after where there's differentiation, where they want to go and offer it to brands or influencers, even other MVNOs, right, who want to be able to like stand for something. Somebody is offering a plan for only seniors, somebody is offering a plan only for women, or whatever it is, right? Um, that's where the brand and the differentiation and the customization come into play. And that's where the composability of the application, the speed to market, and they don't have all the IT skills or the bandwidth or the R&D budgets. All of that comes into play. So it really plays into our sweet spot. Uh, in telco itself, we are doing quite a lot. We are also going after another area of discontinuity where all telcos have opened up their uh, 5G APIs. And these are again offered to large platform companies like Nokia. We made an announcement with Nokia earlier this year. And so we have partnered with them to build a marketplace, which we have launched called WaveXT, which is basically a developer marketplace of abstracted software components using these APIs to allow developers to build applications using very sophisticated APIs for fraud detection, or you could say like higher bandwidth on demand, things like that. These are emerging use cases, and the runway is long. Things are not yet in production today, but we think that there'll be a path to growing in this space in the next 3 to 5 years. But beyond telco, we are doing uh, quite a bit in supply chain, in in spaces that traditionally have not adopted technology a lot. There, the use cases tend to be more about taking IT and extending that to the next level, democratization of application development, building a standard development model for, and then sometimes it's also a talent play. People have stagnated in terms of skills. So now certain enterprises want to be able to hire junior developers and make them very quickly productive as much as the senior developers were on a different technology stack. Sometimes it's a technology stack modernization. So WaveMaker really, under the hood, automatically upgrades technology. So things like that also start to play in our favor.
Right. All right. Let's wrap up this with some quick insights from your years in the trenches. So, I'm going to shoot out 5 rapid fire questions, and I need your honest takes and the most spontaneous answers. Is that fine?
I'll try.
Okay. The first question: will traditional hand coding become obsolete, or will there be a place for developers writing code from scratch?
Yeah, it depends what kind of developers they are, but if they're core enterprise developers, absolutely won't go obsolete. I think just think about it. Like if Vikram is wearing a jetpack, and if I was able to jump from this building to the next building, now I'm able to jump from this building to maybe a tower, right? So really, I'm wearing a jetpack, but I wouldn't go obsolete in doing what I do.
Got it. What is the biggest mistake enterprises make when adapting low code platforms?
I'd say the pertinent question is probably code generation platforms in today's world. Everything is low code or no code nowadays. Um, I think the biggest mistake is not being thoughtful.
Right. 5 years from now, will every major consumer brand have their own mobile network?
Oh, every major consumer brand, unlikely. But as you know, the US has got 300 million people, and maybe they're a little over that in terms of number of subscribers. So unlikely for every major brand to do that, because again, they may not own that amount of affinity from a consumer standpoint. But the brands that do, like Walmart has, or Amazon could, or who knows, OpenAI could have its own plan. So I think there are large, massive brands that can, and if you think about, like, if you ask the question differently, it's a top 10 brands, I'd say yes.
Which is the most overhyped aspect of AI in software development that doesn't deliver on its promise?
Too early to say, because you have people on both sides of the equation saying it delivers everything, um, and people who have actually had trouble, and so on. I'd say the most overhyped aspect is expecting AI code generation to do uh, everything that a developer does, from creativity to massive scale deployment. Just thinking of that entire pipeline and then maintaining that application through its life cycle. So it's maintainable code that can be then manipulated and maintained. Um, Thinking that AI can replace that whole cycle is definitely a corner.
Okay, the final question, rather, I need you to complete this sentence. The future of application development belongs to?
Businesses that are deliberate, thoughtful, uh, and and have a long-term view.
That is wonderful. It was an incredible conversation with you, Vikram, from WaveMaker. We covered everything from the realities of AI code generation to the surprising opportunity for influencers to become wireless providers. Thank you so much for giving us your time, for answering so many questions that we had. What an incredible conversation with Vikram Srivats from WaveMaker. We covered everything from the realities of AI code generation to the surprising opportunity for influencers to become wireless providers. The key insight from Vikram? The convergence of AI powered development tools with new business models is creating opportunities that didn't exist even 2 years ago. Whether that is enterprise apps that can be built in weeks instead of months, or creators launching their own mobile networks. If you are working in software development or exploring new business models in mobile connectivity, I would love to hear about your experiences and what opportunities you are seeing. If you found value in this conversation, please like and share this episode with other developers and entrepreneurs who could benefit from these insights. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe for more conversations with tech leaders who are building the future. We bring you the real stories, breakthrough technologies, and market opportunities you won't hear anywhere else. Thanks for listening.